trust and surrender. And like in a lot of the work I do with my clients in Reiki, like the core premise is to be able to be open and willing and trust and surrender in whatever shows up for you, in faith in yourself that you can navigate it, right? And that it's all going to be okay. Like it will all work out for you.
Hey you, Brooke Jean here with Brooke Jean Unperfected. I'm a licensed professional counselor, coach, mama, and your keep it real guide to the freedom that's available to you in a life unperfected. If you're a high-achieving, perfectionistic, often anxious woman feeling stuck, frozen, and maybe even downright frustrated, you're in the right place. If you're anything like me, you've done everything society told you to do that would promise you success. You've got the job, you've got the husband, you've got the car, you've got the vacations, you've got the 401k, and yet underneath it all, when you're really honest with yourself, you're deeply disconnected and unfulfilled. Here is where we talk about letting go of who you think you're supposed to be so that you can get busy creating a life that you actually love. Everything healing, revealing, and rising is on the table. And we don't hold anything back around here. So buckle up, babe, because you are entering a vortex of your most juicy transformation. One where we dethrone perfectionism so you can access more energy, creativity, and vitality. I am so happy and grateful that you are here. Hello, you beautiful being. Welcome back to the Unperfected Pod. I am so happy and grateful you're here. This week, I got to sit down with a newfound friend, Gianna Piazza. I try to say that in my best Italian voice because she is the Italian mama/queen. We had a juicy conversation, you guys, about transitioning from the old version of you into the more authentic present version of you, whether that's personally, energetically, and professionally. And let me go ahead and read her official bio. So, Gianna Piazza, I am the owner of Soulfully Connected and an awakened mother dedicated to helping women, particularly mothers, who feel stuck in a version of themselves they've outgrown. My work is intuitive and energetically led, allowing me to decode the patterns and emotions that are holding them back. I bridge the gap between where they are now, where they're giving their power away, and the woman they truly desire to become. Sound familiar? As an awakened mother, I am passionate about leading other mothers on their own spiritual journeys, empowering them to break generational cycles and rediscover their true selves. Together, we explore what lights them up and create lives that feel deeply fulfilling and aligned with their authentic truth, free from guilt, perfectionism, and the fear of judgment. My mission is to inspire women to embrace their journey of self-discovery and transformation, fostering a new legacy for themselves and their families. Y'all, can you tell just by her bio how in alignment her and I are and the work that we love to do in the world are? I cannot wait for you to hear this conversation. You will laugh, you will cry, you will be inspired. She is an extraordinary and very special gal. This was her very first podcast interview. So let's go. Let's celebrate women putting themselves out there and using their voice and starting somewhere and being new and being the novice. We don't celebrate that enough. So I'm so excited to share this juicy and poignant conversation with you. Enjoy. All right, Mama, welcome back to the Unperfected Pod. I am so happy and grateful you are here for this beautiful conversation with my new friend, Gianna Piazza, who I just want to say her name over and over again. Welcome to the show, my love.
Thank you so much. And you did a phenomenal job. Like, you sound like you are straight off of the plane from Italy.
I feel like I've been there in a past life and I cannot wait to go.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Because you know where you just have those places in the world where you go, you feel home in your soul.
Yes.
And you feel so alive. Like that's how I feel in Maui. And I know everybody could feel that way in Maui, but it's like, no, I don't think you understand. My soul is supposed to be on this beach every day. I have a feeling, I've never been to Italy. I have a feeling that that's how that's going to feel for me too. Like when I imagine in guided visualization, where do I want to be? How do I want to feel? I imagine me and my family on a boat on the coast of Italy.
Oh.
And I've never even seen it in real life.
But that's okay, because you've already felt it, and that's the best feeling. So now when you go and you get that feeling again, you're going to be like, oh, deja vu, right?
Yeah. I'm going to be
Like
like, I
it's
knew my soul was meant to be here. So welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you. And to the listener, where we're going to start today is what we were just talking about with this is her very first ever podcast recording. And I want to celebrate the heck out of that. I want to normalize the heck out of that. I want to bow down to the courage of starting. And I think we just start there. Like, way to go by saying yes or reaching out to me. I don't even know how we're making this magic happen. It's all serendipitous as far as I'm concerned. But how does it feel to be starting this
it's
process?
the word that comes to mind, and I have to credit my 8-year-old son for this,
Yeah.
because whenever we do something new or we step outside our comfort zone, we're like, okay, how are you? Like, we always check in. How are you feeling? Like, what's going on inside your body? And so often it's like, Mom, I feel so excited, or I feel really anxious, or I feel really scared. And so one time I asked him, and he coined this term, and he was like, I feel skited. And I was like, what is that?
Yes.
And he's like,
Yeah.
scared and excited. I'm like,
Yes.
yes, like that is a
Yes.
feeling. Like you can feel both. And that it's just like, kids are incredible because they bring it back down to like the truest basic sense of things. And it's like, you can totally feel scared and excited to do something new outside your comfort zone and not let that stop you. Right. So I just want to thank you for having me on as
Mhm.
my first podcast interview. And so I'm so excited to be here with you. And, we know each other from the Alpha Femme space, and it's a beautiful space. And so I'm just so honored to be here with you and to have this conversation. Your energy, your vibe, your show is just everything that aligns with me and in my life. So I'm so excited to chat with you.
I love it. So skited. Chloe,
Excited.
my daughter says nerve sighted.
I
Nerve
like that.
sighted. It's nervous and excited. And
Yes.
it's like, I always tell her, I'm like, that's when you're in the sweet spot. You're
Yeah.
in the sweet spot. Like, but fear can dominate and tell you that you're more nervous if you don't
Yes.
have the awareness that fear is normal.
Yeah.
Anytime you're doing something new, anytime you're stretching your capacity, growing into that next level of yourself, doing something that your system has never landed in, you're going to have fear on the scene. Fear
Right.
is going to show up. But if you know that and you bring it with you as your homie, you're going to be fine. But the excitement is there too. But a lot of us, when we feel nerve sighted or skited, as
Mm-hmm.
your kiddo so
Yeah.
brilliantly coined, we will over identify with the scared version of that.
Yes.
Why do you think that is? Especially as like women stepping into our power in entrepreneurship or leadership, where does fear show up and how do you navigate that?
Honestly, I feel like fear shows up when you're facing that self-worth part of yourself, right? That
Mm.
like, can I handle what's to come? Can my nervous system handle it? Can my body physically handle it? It's stepping into like the fear of the unknown, right? And
Yeah.
that really requires a level of surrender and trust. And some people are so far removed from that, and they're just living in a constant state of fear that they forget what trust feels like, right? Or they
Mm.
forget the extraordinary feeling that can show up when you surrender and trust, right? And so, like you said,
Mm.
having the fear is normal. And I don't think without it, when we step outside the comfort zone, when we do the thing we don't think we're capable of doing, you won't have as much pride and excitement because you're not faced with that duality. So I think fear is so important, but people do get stuck when they have a lower sense of self-worth, right? Because they
Mhm.
question their ability. They question their ability, and when they're looking outside for external approval, right? Is this what I should be doing? Well, nobody else on social media is doing this thing, or everybody's doing it. So what's going to make me stand out, as opposed to saying, fuck it. this
Literal.
this feels good for me, and you know what? I'm going to do it. And if it doesn't work out, then there's a lesson in that for me, right? There's
Mhm.
a lesson in that, because there's a lesson in everything that we do.
Yeah. Oh my God. I just recorded a podcast last night that was like, everything is a lesson or a blessing.
Yes.
And
Oh, I
so
love
you
that.
either show up and it works, or you show up and it doesn't, which gives you information that gets you closer.
Yes.
So if you can reframe your idea of failure or perfection or readiness to, I get to be a work in progress. That's why I think I really wanted to honor and call out that it's your first one, is because we all get to be a work in progress. We all started with our first blog post, our first social media post, our first time being in charge of a team, our first podcast, and we get to grow together. And
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you, like when I first started podcasting, we just had the 2-year anniversary on this baby. I used to
Congrats.
really plan out my content
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't trust myself, to your point. And now I'm like, no, like we're creating from a place of authenticity and enoughness.
Mm-hmm.
And I trust that we're going to have a juicy conversation when we get out of our own way and it's effing real.
Right?
Right. So we don't need to be prepared. We don't need to be perfect. You don't need to have so many followers. You don't to show up and be yourself. Like you have what it takes. You have life experience. You're already a boss. You're a mom. Like stop it. You're already miraculous. You're a mom.
Right?
Stop it. Like you have what it takes. So I think that's so cool. And I feel like, so you mentioned one of the fears is like, can I handle it? Can I handle what comes from it? And so a huge part of the work that I do, and I know the work that you do since we did meet in the Alpha Femme world, is growing our capacity to hold both pain and pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you also shared with me before we hit record that like so many working moms in the cold and flu season, hashtag triggered, effing triggered. I just came off of a week. We have an extra week off in February.
Okay.
Oh, for no reason. Just what a working mom needs, you know?
We have one in
Um,
March, so ours is coming up soon.
yeah, we also have spring break.
Oh,
Don't worry. Don't worry, guys. We have all the normal breaks. This is just an extra one. Send help. So, what you're going to tell us is probably so freaking relatable. Tell me how you've been tested, stretched, growing your capacity lately, and just how you're navigating it.
so, well, as you know, like I'm a mom. I have 3 kids between the ages of almost 7 and 10. And when I tell you every sickness has passed through this, and this has never happened to us. So I kind of laugh that we're going
Mhm.
through this because I'm like, of course, I'm really sitting in this mentality and this energy of like, how much can I hold? How much can I be stretched? Right. And throw in like, the flu and then strep throat and then sinus infection and then my son got sick again, like it's just
Oh,
nonstop. And
oh,
so
brutal.
I sat back and I like initially I didn't even contemplate it. I was like, okay, well I have amazing clients, I'm gonna reach out to them and see if they can reschedule. And honestly, like all of them have been so incredible to the point of not just rescheduling but like checking back and being like, how are your kids doing, how are you
Mm,
doing, right? Like,
mhm,
so
mhm.
that's wonderful to have that kind of those empowering relationships around you, right? um
Yes.
and the first week it was like, okay, I've got this. The second week I'm like, okay, this is starting to become a lot, we're going to reschedule again, move things back a bit more, and continuing to be stretched. And then now we're going into week 3 and one of my kiddos is still home sick. And I was like, okay,
Not the
all
third week though.
right.
Dude, I don't have the toolkit for week 3. Okay. Week 3, we're just beside ourselves
And
at this
so, but
point.
I was like, you know what? I'm like, okay, this isn't happening for me, or this isn't happening to me. This is happening for me.
Mm,
Because the first week I wasn't even phased. So that wasn't really stretching my capacity. That was just me doing what I need to do, right? Because
being
as a
nimble and
mom,
flexible like we do.
yes,
Hmm.
business owner, mom, like you're always going with the flow. And then it's like, okay, well, now we're stepping outside the comfort zone because now I'm rescheduling people. But
Mm, ugh,
I
I don't
like
like that feeling.
but you know what? Again, like because I've established such solid relationships with my clients, listen, that perfectionist part is always going
Mm,
to creep in. That inner critic, the fear of like, oh, will they understand if I message them again? If I send that email
yeah.
again? But then I
Yeah.
have to remind myself, like, no, I'm moving from a place of what's aligned. Could I have shipped my kids off to their grandparents, to whatever, which is initially, honestly, what I used to do when I worked full time in the school system. Like, I'd pack up their bag of medications and send them off. And I'd go to school feeling like horrible mom. And I'm like, oh my
Stressed.
God,
So,
my poor
so
kid's
upset.
sick.
Like,
And
are
they
they
just,
okay? They need, yeah. I
right.
hate
And
that
then like,
feeling too.
my poor parents, they've already raised kids. Why are they raising, like, so
Yeah.
many things. But since really tapping into this work and really just leaning into the feminine, it's like, you know what? I can do it. And if I need help, I'm not afraid to ask for help now. Like, I will ask.
Beautiful.
But I know that I can hold a whole lot more than I could 10 years ago. And so just really leaning into that and being like, okay, what do I need in this moment? So like there's this soul activation method that I use with my clients, and it's really a 4-part method where when you get these huge feelings, often it's parts of your inner child that
Mm,
can't manage, right? That get overwhelmed. And it's like those reactions are like those small parts of you that just blow up. And so I've really done a lot of this work with my clients, and it's like, okay, let's check in. And I've done this with myself. Check in. How am I feeling right now? Overwhelmed, frustrated, afraid to message the clients, whatever the feelings are. And it's like, what do I need right now? Like, what do I need right now? So I'd sit with that part of myself and be like, okay, what do I need to tell myself? What did I need to hear when I was X years old and feeling this way?
mm,
And sit with that and be like, I often need to hear, like, it's all going to be okay. Like, you
mm,
don't have to be the perfect mom and the perfect coach. You don't have to be perfect all the time. Okay. And then, like, just hearing that was like, so it's like, what do I need now to move forward in the most aligned way? And because I've been doing this for so long now, the answers almost come instantly. It's like, you need to reschedule. Like that's it. You need to reschedule, and they're going to understand. And then the last step is moving in aligned action and doing what you need to do that's in alignment with you. And so really, like, I constantly am using this method with myself and with my clients, but really the past few weeks, really with myself, and like, all right, let's check in. This is how I'm feeling. I need a minute. I need to process, locate it. What do I need to hear
mm.
right now to help bring my nervous system down, to help me be able to think more clearly, to give myself some compassion, because it's a friggin' lot. Like, it's been a lot. And sometimes we neglect that part to like say, hey, like, you are going through a lot right now. So give yourself some grace. And I don't know
Yes.
if that's like a mother thing or a woman. Oh, I think it's a woman and women in general that just
Yeah.
this pressure of like needing to show up in all parts of your life all the time. But I've really learned that there's you can't be perfect. Like, there's no such thing. And
Mm-mm.
B, I don't even strive for balance anymore, because there's nothing is ever 50-50, right?
Mm-mm.
It's really like you're all in right now here because this is what feels right for you, or you're all in right now here and this is what feels right. And if you do that in alignment, if you move in those ebbs and flows in alignment, then everything around you is going to work out and it's all going to be okay. And we're on week 3 and it has. And you know what? In full transparency, like, my husband had to stay home today because I was like, listen, like, I've been here for 2 weeks and one of my kiddos is still sick. I'm like, and he's so supportive, and God, I love him. But he's like, it's okay. Like, I'll figure out my schedule and we'll make it work today. And I'm like, thank you. Like, I didn't need to be like, I'm so stressed. You have no idea. I've been doing this for 2 weeks. Like, but old me would have done that. Like, trying to prove to myself, really, but saying it out loud to other people. Like, do you know how much I've put up with her? I've had to rearrange my life. But I was just like, babe, like, we're still in this situation. What are we going to do? And he was like,
Mm.
I'm going to stay home and you're going to do the podcast. And right
Mm.
before we started this, I went upstairs and I like hugged him from behind and I kissed him. I'm like, thank you so much, like, for being home
Oh.
today. Cause I love my work. I love having these intimate, deep conversations with women like you. And I just, having stepped away from it for a few weeks, like, even though you can hold that and you can, do that, it's just so beautiful. And so to just step back into it, so.
Yes. I love that you talked about in your method, you address the little child, because that is a huge part of my work as well. It's
Mhm.
like when we're feeling big feelings, it's
Yep.
usually the child that is scared or
Mhm.
lonely or, some core deep emotion. And we're used to just like shoving the child aside and bossing up, but the
Yeah.
child's cries just get louder and louder and louder. So we really want to acknowledge our feelings, and we want to comfort and validate. And then, like you said, tell the child what we needed to hear that we didn't hear when we were little. And I love that you brought that to your marriage, because I feel like that is like an advanced skill that I'm stepping into right now, which is like, when I find myself really resentful in those moments when, as a working mom, you're like, I'm doing everything. Like, yeah, because I'm an entrepreneur, I'm the one that can stay home with the kids, but like I'm actually making more money. So what the fuck? And it's like you get resentful. And then you end up addressing it with your partner from either your child emotional part, or even worse is your protector,
Mm-hmm.
who's like, I told you,
Yeah.
my protector is my perfectionist, my anxious one, the control freak. She can also be feisty. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You guys might be surprised to hear that,
Oh,
but
mine can be feisty
she
too.
might rip your eyeballs out. I don't know. And it's like, no, guys, like that's when we show up like that, that's not who we really are now as the women that we are today. That's our younger parts or our protective parts. And we want to love on them and heal them and integrate them,
Yeah.
and then respond consciously like you did, where you took your partner as a partner in figuring out the solution, and he offered help, and then you like celebrated that with him. I mean, it's all just so beautiful. This is like big girl talk. Excuse me. Are we growing up?
I don't know,
This
but
is
I
some
love it. I
mature,
love being in my big girl era. Sorry, I won't go
this is
back.
some big girl shit we're talking about. Okay.
But
10
speaking
years
of the
ago, this
little
was not
people,
available for me.
I
Huh?
just want to say, speaking of the little people, the child parts within us, and I don't know if you experience this, but having my kids, I look at each of them and I'm like, you are bringing out a part of my childhood
Mm.
that either I need to heal, accept, or that's been suppressed for so long. Like I can go through and look at each one of my kids and be like, oh, you're here to teach me this. Like you are reminding me to be compassionate, to be empathetic. And then you're here to remind me how freaking exciting life can be and adventurous. And then you're here to remind me that, like, don't take shit from anyone, right? Like, you are
Totally.
who you are authentically are, and you're going to embrace that shit fully. And I look at each of my kids and I'm like
Mm.
in so much awe of them and
Mm.
admiration, because like they're just such beautiful little beings. And I truly, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's days where I'm like ready to like
Beat it.
get
Yeah.
your
You
room,
were
leave me
beautiful
alone.
yesterday.
Like,
Today I want you to
yeah,
beat it.
like when is bedtime?
We
but
always come
like,
back to the love, though. Thank
but I
God.
do. I look at
We
them and I'm
always
like,
come back
oh,
to the
like,
love.
yeah. And they each just bring something so unique. They pull something outside of me that I'm like, oh, I haven't tapped into this part in so long or ever. Right. And
Yeah.
so they're
Yes.
like, I give them so much gratitude for teaching me things that, parts of me that I need to heal or get back in touch with that I've lost touch with, as an adult, because that happens.
Totally. Our kids are our best teachers.
Mm-hmm.
They are our best teachers. I actually just did a live, and then I recorded a little training on it, or a little video on it. First of all, why we can feel envy of our
Mm.
kids.
Oh, that's deep.
So, like, if your daughter has a really good relationship with your husband and you didn't have that kind of
Mm.
relationship with your dad, or like our kids, we're more psychologically sophisticated than our
Mhm.
parents were.
Mhm.
So, we're trying to raise our kids differently, and we're trying to heal generational wounds and
Yes.
not project our shit onto our kids. And sometimes we get a little envious that they can just be shits and we still love them endlessly. And we try to parent them consciously. And then they get so loved on and like their needs are met and we play with them and all that. And I just want to normalize that, like, we're doing the right thing by breaking the cycles and consciously parenting and loving our kids the way that we do. And
Mhm.
it's also very triggering sometimes when your kids are getting needs met that your needs were not met. And so exactly
Yeah.
what you said, that can trigger inside of you. Like if your kids are allowed to be loud and messy, but you got in trouble for being loud and messy, it could trigger something inside of you. And it's not something you need to correct in them. It's an opportunity to go inward and to reparent your inner child and say,
Yes.
baby, it's okay to make messes. We can clean them up.
Yeah.
And
I
that's
think
why our kids are our best teachers, is
yeah.
because they highlight where our work is to be done. And instead of projecting that pain onto our kids, we're going inward and trying to heal and repair ourselves. And that's
Mhm.
really so beautiful and so profound, and also really freaking hard sometimes,
It really is,
you
especially when
know?
you're doing it with a partner, right?
Yes.
Because it's
Who has
not
their
just
own
your
stuff.
child, right? It's
Yep.
not just your inner
Yep.
child that you're trying to
Yep.
heal.
Yes.
It's like there, and it's being met with theirs as well, right? So having someone that you can have those like those big girl, conversations with, and being like, okay, like this is what I'm noticing in me, and this is where I want to heal, and or this is the path, the trajectory that I'm on, and them not necessarily having to be at the same place as you,
Yeah.
because our journeys are all so unique, but being open and willing to hear you out, to allow you to travel your journey while they're still traveling theirs, right? And so like that's something that my husband and I have learned to navigate, because we've been together since high school. So like
Oh,
yeah,
your high
like
school
right, so
sweetheart.
we've literally like
I love
grown
that.
together, and like
Yeah.
there's been so much growth and learning and healing on both our ends, but just giving each other the space to dive into that at different points and times in our lives has really like strengthened our unit as parents, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as our relationship. And like my kids laugh at us, or sometimes they'll get upset with us because we'll go out, or like we'll go away. We started vacationing without them the past couple of years, and
Yeah.
my one child was like, why do you guys need to go away without us? And I'm like, listen, one day before you, there was just us. And one day when you're not here anymore, it's just us.
Yeah.
And I don't just want to love your dad forever. I want to like him forever. So we need to just constantly maintain that relationship, right?
Oh,
And
yes.
we're like, and be
Yes.
together
Yes.
as adults
Yes.
without parenting mode
Yes.
on all the time, right?
Yes.
So
Yes. Yes.
whether
Yes.
it's like just a simple like let's go for lunch, or whether you're taking a week long vacation, whatever that is, like that, I feel like that too has such a huge impact on your own growth and development journey, and as well as your motherhood journey, right? Having to
Yes.
recognize that your partner's coming from a different place with different wounds, and being able to honor
Yes.
and respect both sides of that.
Yeah. It's such a fun mess to navigate,
It
isn't it?
is.
And
Oh yeah.
yeah, like what are we teaching our kids? I just had a really deep conversation with my husband about that over the weekend. We've been together for 20 years. It's been rocky up
Amazing.
and down like anybody else's, because I had a kiddo when he came into the mix, and
Okay.
we waited 14 years to have our daughter together. And so there's just a lot of stuff. But I was telling him how I love that like all of our daughter's needs and wants are met. And we're like, it's like she rules the roost in the house. And what are we modeling for her about our relationship and the importance of it? What are you modeling for her how a husband should treat a wife? What am I modeling how a
Right.
wife should treat a husband? Like it's okay for us to, because we found ourselves in this trap where we were either working or taking care of Chloe, and
Mm-hmm.
whoever's taking care of Chloe is literally physically playing with her the entire time.
Yeah.
And she don't want to go places, so we're not going to go places, and she don't want to go out to eat, so we're not going to go out to eat. And then we just ended up like feeling very separate. And so we're finding our way back and redefining, like, listen, we want our daughter to know how important and special she is.
Mm-hmm.
There's no question
Of
about that.
course.
And whoa, where did we go? Like you said, I not only want to be with you forever, I want to like you. Like,
Right?
I want to have fun. I don't want to be like staring at you across the room with just like devil eyes because you're just bending over backwards and my daughter is just totally ruling you.
Yeah.
But my needs haven't been met since 1997. And I'm feeling envy about that. And then I'm feeling shame that I'm feeling any of these things,
Right? That's
because
the
what is
thing.
happening? I'm a grown ass woman. Right. So it's cool to just like come together and have these conversations with our husbands about this kind of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
like reparenting and why the envy, and like deciding together, like we're the leaders of the family. What's the culture that we want to have? And
Yeah.
what are we modeling for Chloe? And our relationship is important. And I'm just grateful that we're even like, A, we have the awareness to be
Mm-hmm.
having these conversations, and that B, I have a partner that I can talk to about these things.
Yes,
So then C, we can continue to co-create the relationship, the marriage, the family, the business, the things that we want to create. But
definitely.
damn, this is some big girl stuff we're talking about here.
It really is.
That is like the theme of our conversation, big girl stuff. Okay, so let's get into your business, babe. So tell me, so you used to work in the school district. What were you doing
I
there?
did.
And what do you do now? What was your transition? I want to hear all the things. I love all the things.
Amazing. Okay, so I worked in the school system as a child and youth care practitioner. It started as an educational assistant, child and youth care practitioner. I also
Mhm.
worked in the hospital system for about 20 years between the
Wow.
two,
Wow.
doing a lot of emotional regulation, like piloting programs and leading programs with students and families. A lot of work around emotional regulation, psychological flexibility. So it was very heavy work. Like the
Yeah.
demographic of families that I worked with was just very heavy.
Yeah.
And
Lots of
continue
trauma,
to
I
be the
imagine.
lots of trauma. So
Yeah.
continuing to be there, like after having my own kids, became a little bit more challenging because I was giving so much to my job all day that I would come home and have very little patience and energy for my own family.
Yeah.
And it really started to affect our house. Like I just, and so my husband and I sat down and talked, and I was like, he's like, you can't go on like this anymore. Like we can't go, and I'm like, no, I can't. Like, so I really started, this is the just like my true discovery of Reiki. I went for a Reiki session,
Mm.
and because I knew that I was burnt out. I wasn't fulfilled anymore, but I didn't know how to put all these things into words. I was just like, I don't feel right. And I couldn't put it into words. And so I went for a Reiki session because I'd always been open to like holistic healing and different modalities. And I left that session, and honest to goodness, I felt like she had removed a block, like bricks from my throat chakra. And
Whoa.
I drove the entire way home, like singing. And I'll never forget, she said to me, "You're going to be leading a group of women." She goes, "Not
Mm.
now, but in the future." And she said, like old school Italian, almost like that community of women where like you're all supporting one another. And that's really where I see you in the future. And I was like, okay, still really kind of new to all of this. So I went home, and she mentioned some things about, like being really heavy in the masculine energy, which now looking back, I really was. Like I was
Shocker.
living in like go, 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 check off the to-dos, like controlling everything. And so
Type
then I was
A.
like, hang
Yep.
on, there's a masculine feminine energy. And so my line one in human design that I am went into like deep dive. Like I need to learn more about this world of energetics and what it can do for me. So as I
Mm-hmm.
continued, I started to really deeply explore Reiki. I started going for courses and receiving my certifications and doing all of this work while still having this full-time job with the board. But I noticed that like I really started to feel like I didn't belong there anymore. I started retreating more at work. I would actually take a lunch, which a lot of people don't often do because they feel
Yeah.
guilty or there's just so much to do. So I actually started taking a lunch, and I'd go and I would meditate or journal, or I started getting involved in like feminine energetic programs and working with different coaches. And eventually, I got to a point where I was like, okay, like I can't do this anymore, but I can't leave either. Like, what? My husband is also self employed. So at that point, I was the only one with like the pension and the benefits and like the security that,
Mm-hmm.
of
Yeah.
a consistent paycheck. And so
Yes. Yes.
the therapist I was working with at the time was like, well, have you ever considered like taking a leave? And I'm like, never. Like, I can't take a leave. I'm the only person in the school that has this role. Like, so many people depend on me. Well, the universe, God, Mother Nature had other plans for me because a few weeks later, I actually ended up hurting my back playing in the snow with my kids
What?
and had to take a medical leave. And
Whoa. Whoa. After your therapist used the word leave,
leave,
you hurt
leave.
your back and had to take a medical leave. See, dude,
Like
we are just like always divinely guided, I believe.
100%. But when I was moving through this, I was like, why is this happening? Like,
Yeah.
so I still didn't have that true awareness. And so I'm sitting here like at home on my couch and I'm like feeling this heavy guilt. I'm like, oh my God, like I'm useless to now my family and my school system. Like I just both like, but slowly as I started to recover and I was home and the whole energy of the house shifted. And it was actually my husband who brought it to my attention. He was like, since you've been home, the energy of our house has shifted. He's like, we're not like, because I was taking care of everything and yet still trying to manage a full-time job. And so they was like lunches, before and after care, like extracurriculars, like go, 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 go. And once I was able to be home, everything just kind of like, right, that like rush to be and do wasn't there anymore. And so I was like, well, whatever, if I don't make lunches tonight, I'll make them in the morning. Like it's not a big deal. You know, we didn't have to do all of the juggling of like who's picking up, dropping off, before, after care, like all these things, because I was
You were
more
home.
available. And so that for me was a huge aha moment. And on the flip side, I was like, ego check, everybody at school is doing okay. Like, yeah, initially they had, you know, they struggled and there was a lot of emails back and forth, but then that started to slow down. And I was like, oh, so world, you know, your job does go on without you, right? Like that. And that was a huge realization, because I think as a woman, you're like, well, no, I need to be 100% perfect at home and 100% perfect at my job. And realizing like, oh wait, like they can still, I've set everything up, the program's in place and they can manage without me. And that was my like, okay, I can't go back. Like I love the feeling of being home. I love being able to pick up my kids from school. Like it's just, this is where I need to be. And that was my aha moment. And so in that, made a hard decision to leave the school system and started working with a coach to really just get more deeply aligned in my mindset, in my body, in energetics. And so one of the questions that came up was like, well, like, what are you going to do now? And I was like, well, what do you mean? What am I going to do? Like Reiki, like that's my passion. That like I have done all of this. I did level 1 because I was like, I want to teach my kids about this stuff, because I feel like that's not taught in education. And we have that ability to tap into our intuition as young kids, to know and feel our body. But as we grow up, we become so disconnected from that. And so I was like, no, I need to continue on this path, because I want to teach my kids how to live from a place of alignment, how to make decisions based off of their intuition, not what they should be doing. And so in healing myself, I wanted to bring this all out into my kids. And then as I continued through Reiki, I was like, hang on, why am I not working with other women? Because this is one of the things that I found in working in the school system, is that we work with these children and we build up these skills, and you know, and we want them to take these skills and transfer them into the classroom and into their home. But a lot of the parents haven't done the healing and don't have the skills at home. So these kids are like on a kind of an uphill battle. They're being met with some resistance, because it's like, well, I can only go so far when I'm being met with someone who doesn't carry the same skills that I carry. And so I knew in that moment, I'm like, I want to work with women. I want to work with mothers, because they are the nucleus of the home. And when they are in alignment, their entire house flows better. Their marriages flow better. Like it's a domino effect. And so really my work has really focused on sitting with women and bridging the gap between, okay, where have we lost touch with ourselves? Where have we given our power away? And how can we create the life that we desire? And a lot of the work I do it's all intuitive and energetic led, using Reiki and, you know, other feminine energetics, and tapping into inner child healing, doing the soul activation method, like I told you. And so it's been beautiful to witness the shifts that have happened for my clients and the relationships that like I've established with people. It was one of the most difficult experiences of my life, but it has been one of the most rewarding experiences of my life.
Oh, that's so cool. I feel like there's so much parallel to your story and mine of like working really hard and doing all the quote unquote right things, and then like kind of getting kicked in the tits by the universe and having to get off that path of corporate or the system and going into our way that we're going to lift women on this planet. And I agree with you. Like, there is nothing, I mean, aside from seeing my kids in their gift and
Yes.
happy, there is nothing better than when a woman comes home to herself and remembers who she is and connects to her power and steps into her potential
Mm-hmm.
and starts creating the life that she desires from that place. Like, that is why we do the work we do. You
Mm-hmm.
use Reiki, I use therapy and
Yeah.
coaching. Like, but that's it, right? Like, there is nothing better than like the liberation of women.
Oh yeah. And I remember my therapist at one point saying, like, I had said to her, well, what did I say? I was like, what am I teaching my kids if I leave the school board, right?
Mm, mm,
Well,
mhm,
and she's like, but what are you showing them if you stay? And I'm like,
mhm,
oh, that's so
mm.
powerful, because I looked in that moment, I really looked at my career as a marriage. And this is like another parallel in that, like, I'm only 38 at this point. I think I was like 34, 35, and I'm like, I still have like 25 years to go in this career. And if I look at it like a marriage and I'm not feeling fulfilled, would I stay in a marriage for 25, 30 years if I wasn't fulfilled and feeling valued and feeling purpose and joy and excitement? No, I wouldn't. So how is
Totally.
that any different in a career? You know, like, what would I tell my children if they weren't fulfilled and aligned anymore? And can we just start normalizing that it's okay to grow out of shit? Like, the things that you wanted when you were 18, 20, 25 are not, maybe not going to be the same when you're 35, 40,
Probably
50.
not. Probably not.
Right? Right? So it's like, it's okay to have outgrown something and
Mhm.
try something new. Is it scary as fuck? 100%.
100%.
Like, when I sent that email of like, I am done, like, I am, the
Yes.
feeling, it was
That
like
was a
a
trauma response.
very,
The only reason we were able to do that is because we were already in the panic of the trauma response of doing it. That's how we
right?
did it.
But it was also like this skited feeling of like, holy shit, like, I can't believe I'm actually doing this for me. Not because I should be
Yes.
doing it, but because this is what I want to do. And
Mm,
where it's, and also in that moment, I really leaned into trust and surrender. And like, in a lot of the work I do with my clients in Reiki, like, the core premise is to be able to be open and willing and trust and surrender
mm,
in whatever shows up for you, in faith in yourself that you can navigate it, right? And that it's all going to be okay. Like, it will
mm.
all work out for you.
Oh my God. I love that you said, I want to double click on it for the listener because this is like such permission. I feel like we're all just trying to do the right and responsible thing. And what was right and responsible for our parents' generation is different than what's right and
Oh yeah.
responsible for our generation. So that's why it's scary to leave a steady job because that's not something our parents had. Or maybe your parents were an entrepreneur, but it was
Mm-hmm.
more rare back then. And then their generation, their parents certainly didn't have that luxury, right? It was you get a good job and you ride that puppy all the way to retirement,
And that
right?
was one of my biggest fears in leaving the school system, is because that inner child had my dad in my
Totally.
ear, and
Yes.
I so value my relationship with him. And he's always been such a hard worker, but like you said, it was very much like, you go to school, you get a good job, you have something with pension and benefits, and like, so the thought of like, oh my god, what's my dad gonna think, that I'm leaving this secure job to try something new that he has really no idea what it is. Like, if I
Yeah,
talk to him
yeah,
about
yeah.
Reiki, he's
He's
like,
not
what?
subscribing to Reiki
No, and he's
anytime
still
soon.
like, he's like, when people ask me, I just show them your card. He's like, I don't know, like, I'm like, it's okay, Dad, like, it's all good. So, but
You're like, don't worry, Dad. I'll just do it on you and help you, and you won't even know I'm doing it.
you
It's
know what the
fine.
funny thing
Love
is?
you. Bye.
The fear in our head is so much louder than
Totally.
the reality, because what I finally told him, that was his response. He's like, but you have a pension and you have benefits. And my response was like, yeah, Dad, but my soul is dying. Like, I can't be
Ooh.
there. And he's like, that's okay. He's like,
Mm,
I just want you to be happy. And I'm going to get
mm,
emotional saying this,
mm.
because we think like, and then I look at my dad and I'm like, that's his inner child that thinks he
Mm.
needs that secure job to,
Yeah.
to be successful, and to, but like, he wants me to be happy, and which I am now. And so I love it. But yeah, it's again, like you're constantly faced with the inner child, and having that dialogue with yourself is so important.
Yeah, it's so huge. And I love what you said too around like, what are we teaching them if we leave? But what are we teaching them if we stay? And we stay unhappy and we stay
Yeah.
unfulfilled and we stay never having tested our potential or gone for it. You know, like for me, it felt irresponsible when I left Target. But what I really wanted to teach my kids was to live authentically
Yeah.
and to go for what you want and to have big dreams and goals and to not stop until you get there. And there was just something that I always knew, like, as long as I just keep trying, there's no way I'm going to fail, because failure is really only if you quit.
Mm-hmm.
And then that would be different. I would be choosing to quit. That's not really a failure. So I'm like, if I really want this and I show up and I fail forward until I get it, what's that going to teach my kids?
Yeah.
You
Oh, I
know?
love that. Fail forward. It's so
Oh,
true,
well, if you,
right?
I study successful people because I do believe success leaves clues, and then you have to find your own
Mm-hmm.
flavor of how
Mm-hmm.
you do it. But like, they all just failed forward until they hit the gold. But so many people quit right before they hit the gold and they don't even know how close they were.
Right.
Like, you know, Melanie teaches the compound effect, right?
Yeah.
It's like everything that we're pouring in, every podcast episode, every social media post, every client that you've helped transform, every testimonial, every coffee you've had, every networking, every mastermind. At some point, this shit is like, for me, it's this year. I've already claimed it. My word of the
Yep.
year is infinity. It's
Oh,
like
I love
the
it.
better it gets, the better it gets. It's the compound effect that everything that I've been pouring into the last 9 years, we're hitting that tipping point and it's done. It's
Yeah.
already claimed. It's already done. It's all working out. And I'm so grateful. And I'm also really happy with where I'm at, even if that doesn't happen. So it's a win, 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 win,
Right?
win, win.
Yes.
But kudos to you, mama, for like, you know, letting your spirit and your intuition guide you and having the courage to make the leap and trusting in yourself and then allowing yourself, because we as women struggle with allowing ourselves to follow what lights us up,
Yeah.
because that's been taught bad, wrong, selfish, naughty, inappropriate. But it's like, no, guys, it's not. Like, as women, we were destined to be in alignment with what lights us up and sets our soul on fire and what feels good in our body.
Yeah.
But we've disconnected from our body many, many moons ago. So we got to heal so that we can reveal the truth of who we are, so that we can rise into the person that we're becoming. And you've done it. And now here you are, right? Like, how lovely is it that, yeah, it's really stressful when we're having to cancel on clients. But like you said in your text to me, like, thank God we get to we run our own businesses. And so we get to have the flexibility where if our kids need us, we can be there. And if we really want to be somewhere, we can enlist our partner. And if we, you know, like, we get to do work that lights us up. Like, this is work. This conversation is work. No,
I
dude, I
know.
would be having this for
I love
fun.
it.
We would be having a cup of coffee, chatting about this kind of
Right?
shit
Yes.
on a Sunday afternoon for fun.
Mm-hmm.
And so that risk, that courage, that trust, that surrender led you and me to where we are now, which is a pretty damn good spot, even when we are juggling all the things.
Right. And you know what? It's going to continue to be a juggling act sometimes. Like, that's life. That's the human experience, right? And we're not here to just flow through life. Like, the ebbs are what makes the flow so much better. And so really
Mm-hmm.
having perspective shift, when things come at you, A, it helps you get through it in the moment, but B, in the long run, you're like, fuck, look what I can do. Like, look at all that I have accomplished and all of the amazing people I have met in the process. And you know what? All I can ask for is that my kids have their own amazing journey and find their own alignment, whatever that looks like for them, and that my clients do the same. And so I'm so grateful. Like you said, like, to be able to just move through and call it in and compound on everything you're doing, but also know that if you don't get it today or the way that you expect it, that it's okay. Right? Because I have so much gratitude for everything I have now. And that's really what life is about, right? We've learned that. One foot in gratitude, one foot in desire. And so really just building on that evolution. and embodying all of the things that we learn and all of the things we want to be, because I've learned that that is the best way to show people what's possible for them, right? Is through your own embodiment. And so like I used to struggle with like, well, how do I, be a good mom here and then take what I'm learning and, put it into my business here? And through like my own journey still with Reiki, a lot of what was showing up for me is like, it's one identity. You don't have to separate it. You can, and that's where a lot of women also, I think, get really like caught up, is like, well, I can't have fun with my kids. Like I need to take care of them. And it's like, well, no, like if you feel like going on a hike today, pick up your kids from school and go on a hike. I've started giving my kids days off just for having like mom and me time, right? I'm like, that's it. One-on-one, we're going to do some mom and me time, whatever that looks like for each of you. It's going to be different because you're all different people, right? But then bringing my joy into my relationship with them too, and into my relationships with my clients and my husband. And so not having to keep it so confined either, right? Allowing that overflow into all areas of your life. It just makes your relationship so much more impactful and empowered. And it just makes life so much more fulfilling.
Oh, that's so good. That's such a beautiful place to end. That was a mic drop right there. All right, my love. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. Tell the beautiful people where they can connect with you.
First of all, thank you for having me. You
Mm-hmm.
have cracked open my newbie cherry, so thank you very much. Let's celebrate
We did it,
that.
and you crushed it. Crushed it. Crushed it, babe.
You can find me on Instagram at Soulfully Connected. That is like my main jam. I'm also on Facebook under Gianna Piazza or Soulfully Connected. Those are my two main jams. I also actually low key, this is the first place I'm dropping this, is I've started writing a book. So your listeners can keep an eye out for that, hopefully in the next year.
Awesome.
Yeah, about the awakened mother and this
Ooh.
entire journey. Yeah. So
okay, well, you'll have to come back when you're releasing your book, The Awakened Mother. Yes, please. We all want that. I believe that becoming a mom is an awakening each and every time, too.
Every time, right?
Every time it's a new awakening, isn't it?
But thank you
so
much.
I was writing a book, dude. Writing a book is like birthing a baby.
It really is.
Just saying.
Like, and
it's like no joke.
No, and honestly, I was like, I've had this visualization for a while of like me being on a stage promoting this book, and like years ago, and I'm like, I don't know what this means. Like I had no idea. Like I was like, I'm not writing a book. I'm not even in that place. And then this year I was like, I need to write a book about my experience and how impactful Reiki has been in my motherhood journey and how impactful it's been in my clients' journeys and all of that. And so really like that, this book is a true testimonial to my journey of alignment, to my clients, to the work I do, to my kids. Really, like they are my dedication, and to my mom, because she's my girl. So
I love
it's, you know what, it's
so
like
much.
So
beautiful.
Learning and healing through generations. Yeah, so it's just, but it has been crazy. Like going back to what you said, like that experience in itself is like, I just started writing and then I was like, hang on, like there needs to be some kind of process in this, right? But then I took a step back and I was like, hang on, right now I'm just like brain dumping. So like, let's brain dump. I've gotten to the point of like, I know what my chapters are. I know what's going to be in them. I've already started tackling a few of them. And then, starting to look into like the publishing side of things. So it's kind of exciting, but like you said, fun. It's a whole other journey of expansion where my capacity is going to be stretched again, right? And like, how much can I hold? And so, but I'm really looking forward to it. And I know that however it ends, it's all going to work out.
Yeah. And I feel like writing your book is going to give you even more clarity than ever before on like your mission and your message and your method.
Yes.
Because it's like when you like share your stories and you share your experience and you share your lessons and blessings, you're like, well, this is like the theme. Like this is my why. This is my how I made it through all this. And that's the thing now I get to share with the world. Writing a book is just a really long and great exercise to just like, cement your mission and your message. Really, so I love that for you.
I do.
Yeah. All right, babe. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And to the beautiful listeners, thank you so much for being here. We will see you same time, same place next week. Bye for now.
Bye.
Hey, babe, if you made it to this part of the show, I am so freaking happy for you. That means that you are dead serious about healing, revealing, and rising. And just by showing up for yourself in this way, you are sending a beautiful message to yourself and to the universe that you matter, that you are ready for more. And so don't be surprised if things start to flow your way. I would so appreciate it if you would rate and review the podcast on Apple and Spotify. The more reviews that we have, the more that it gets into the heads and hearts of more high-achieving, high-performing working mamas. Also, we love to get your feedback, so share with us what's landing. You can either DM me on Instagram, I'm at Brooke Jean unPerfected, or you can share a clip that really landed and tag me in it. I want this to be the most extraordinary co-creation where we are in this together, seeing what is possible for women worldwide. Thank you so much for being here. Take care of yourselves and therefore each other.